Bastien, he's going to argue that one country on its own is about to double the entire global Bitcoin network hash rate, not over a decade, but as a matter of energy policy. So Bastien is the Director General of the Institut National de Bitcoin, which is the INBI, and he's also a board member of Rachel's EBEA. He co-founded Unused Bitcoin, and he also translated Lyn Alden's Broken Money into French. Has anyone in this room read Lyn Alden's Broken Money? A couple of you, cool, so he did it in French. Bastien's specialism is nuclear modulation. I've no idea what that means either, but Bastien is going to explain. France runs on nuclear. If you didn't know, over 70% of its electricity nowadays comes from nuclear, but nuclear hates being turned up and it hates being turned down. Modulating reactors damages them, costs money, and shortens their life. And France lost roughly 80 million euros in 2024 to wasted electricity through this medium. So French lawmakers are now openly asking whether Bitcoin mining is the rational buyer for that surplus. So Bastien's talk is titled The 150 Terawatt Ghost, How France Will Double the Bitcoin Network Hash Rate. Absolute madness. So please put your hands together. Welcome Bastien to the stage.
Thank you, Joe, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for the organization team for organizing this great event. So yes, indeed, that's a bold claim. 150 terawatt hour. We are talking of a quantity of electricity there. We are not talking of installed capacity. I'm going to dive into that later. But that's the thing. So this is what I call a ghost, because we don't really see it. But I'm going to show you where it is. And I'm going to reveal, yes, how we will double the Bitcoin hash rate from Europe. Yeah, it's a bold claim. It's backed by data. So I'll show you the data, and then you're going to tell me what you think about it. That's next. Brilliant. So we're going to follow 3 clues. There's 3 clues to see where Bitcoin mining and our energy system will be a good marriage. First, let's look at this map. Shows you Europe and shows you the average electricity price on what we call the spot market, the day-ahead market, right? You can see there is huge differences. And maybe that will not be too surprising, but now in the north of Norway particularly and the north of Sweden are really the cheapest area. And what does that tell you when like prices is low on average? It might be an indication that there are surplus. And where there are surplus, Bitcoin mining is brilliant. Because Bitcoin mining is this buyer, what we call of first resort, last resort, the one giving a floor price, a price floor, you say in English. I always forget. We said the other way around in French, you know. You know the stuff. And the system, actually, the system needs that because you don't want the prices to crash too much. So that might be, you know, something to follow if we want to see where this ghost is. Let's look at a second signal that Charlie talked about extensively. I'm just going to pass very quickly on it, which is the flexibility price signal, otherwise called balancing markets, otherwise called the frequency regulation market. I believe Bipin is going to talk about it as well. There is not a map here I can show you with like a single value per country because there is really different mechanisms that works differently in every country. So I cannot do that. But the main thing to know is that you can look at basically how much the system value the fact that you are able to control your megawatt. You're there, you consume, and you're ready, available to switch off whenever the system needs it. And the system gives a value to that, okay? And this is the interesting bit. So it's all those reserves that Charlie was talking about, primary reserve, secondary reserve, and so on. It's all very boring stuff, so we're gonna move on to the third signal, which is called, which I call, once we've looked at the prices, that, you know, they tell us where electricity is cheap, obviously. Once we looked at where balancing markets, you know, where they tell us where controllability has value, then let's look at the third signal, which is, I believe, the most important. Let's look at flows. Where are the net importers of electricity in Europe? And where are the net exporters today? On the right, the red countries there, those are the ones basically consuming more than what they produce. And on the left, you see the country producing more than what they consume. And Sweden and Norway are there. And there's another country really there, which is called France, which is where I'm from. I don't know if you noticed. So France is exporting currently, over the last 12 months, 100 terawatt-hour. This is about a quarter of its electricity production. This is what it exports to the neighbors, Germany, Belgium, and so on, and the UK as well, which is not there. So maybe it was good to look at the power flows because it might be a hint, that if the country is exporting that much, maybe there is more under the hood. Could this country actually produce more than this? Well, let's check what's the installed capacity. So terawatt, we are talking here about gigawatt, we are talking about power, not electricity production. Installed capacity, 164 gigawatts, like nuclear is the main bit of it, 63 gigawatts. Second comes solar, which is now overpassing hydro. Hydro used to be second. Wind is also significant. And as you can see, gas, coal is very low. So France is actually one of the least fossilized electric grids in the world. 95% of the electricity being produced in France is low carbon. So basically, having an installed capacity is one thing, but producing electricity is another. Gigawatt, terawatt hour, two different things. Do you remember this ad from the 90s? I don't know if you know. I used to love that ad because it says a lot. It says a lot. This is Carl Lewis. You remember the faster runner at the time? Carl Lewis in heels. And with this brilliant sentence, power is nothing without control. And yeah, this is all it's about here. All it's about. Because let's look at... Just want to stick to Carl. Yeah, thank you. Let's look at those 63 gigawatts. You remember we were talking about installed capacity of nuclear. Let's translate that into actual electricity production, actually. And let's look at what this fleet in France could produce if it was running, let's be crazy, 100% of the time. No stop, just running, base load all the time. Well, in 2025, we would have had production of about 540 terawatt hour, right? 2 years ago, it was slightly less, because in between, we've connected a new nuclear reactor to the grid, Flamanville in Normandy. And 6 years ago, it was slightly more, because we disconnected a nuclear reactor from the grid, one that was on the border with Germany, called Fessenheim. That was, in that whole period where all over Europe, we were disconnected nuclear reactors. And France, so disconnected one, and thankfully stopped there, but there was plan to disconnect more. But 2022 changed a lot of things, obviously, energy crisis and so on. And all of a sudden, we realized that nuclear was important, so we stopped that. Good. But Germany and Belgium, they were not as lucky, and yes, they don't have nuclear anymore. Let's look now, because the problem is that nuclear reactor, you actually need to stop them from time to time. Simple reason, you need to refill. You've got your, not petrol, your uranium, and you need to stop at the uranium station from time to time. And while you do that, you cannot produce. So let's look at something interesting. Let's look at what the nuclear fleet, the French one, would produce if we were to apply a capacity factor. This is how we call it. Basically, it's the percentage of time during the year that is going to run. In Bitcoin mining, we call that uptime. So let's look at, in the US, the nuclear reactor over there, what is their capacity factor? It's super high. It's super high. It's 92, 93, 94%, every year. Why do we compare the French nuclear reactor with the American nuclear reactor? Because it's pretty much the same technology. That's it. It's what we call pressurized water reactor. So it makes sense. We can compare. It's the same tool, really. So there is no big reason why the French nuclear reactor could not run at this capacity factor. I except for one, the lack of demand maybe. So let's look at actually what the French fleet produces today. And there is a gap. It's the red one. So 2025, that was the production with the capacity factor in France of 73%, it was in 2025. We produced 370 terawatt-hour, something like this. There is a massive gap here between what the French nuclear reactors are producing today and what they could produce, with capacity factor like in the US, same technology. Just a little bracket, parenthèse, how do you say in English? Forget. In bracket. Just interestingly, quite interesting to look at something there. You see the nuclear reactor, this is the decade of the 2010. It's the time where we didn't see much more demand on the system. Like growth wasn't really there. We didn't have really much more demand in France, in other countries as well in Europe. And what happened at the same time is that we installed a lot more of solar and wind. So nuclear just basically started to produce less and less because there was no demand and there was more production. So just, you can see slowly it's decreasing. Oops. However, I just want to give some nuance here. It's quite important. 2022, there's a big gap. And just briefly, something happened in 2022. We had two issues in France with the nuclear fleet. We had maintenance reason. A lot of them had to go through maintenance. They could not produce. Another big part of them had what we called corrosion issue. They could not have produced that year. Maybe they could have if we were less careful on security reason, but at the time, we didn't do that. Let's not go into too much details, but basically, just to give this idea that in 2022, we were very happy to have solar and wind. Just to bring that in mind, because it's a concept I think Kenji might develop of anti-fragility. Basically, in our electric system, it might be good to be able to rely on different sources just to food for thought. Let's go back to 2024. Nuclear fleet is there, able to run, normal, but this is what it produces only. And the gap between there, and the American one, we are talking about 138 terawatt-hour at the time, 138. So I don't know if that rings a bell. Maybe, we need to compare figure to understand what it is, what it represents. So what it is, 138 terawatt-hour? Well, I kid you not. Cambridge, last year, in their mining report, they said that in 2024, same year actually, the Bitcoin network was consuming 138 terawatt-hour. Yep. In other words, like today, in France, without any new capex, without any new installed capacity, I see Kenji over there doing like that. So the reasoning seems good so far. Without any new installed capacity, we basically can double the Bitcoin hash rate. So that's a bit crazy when you think about it. And why did I speak about 150 terawatt-hour in the title of my presentation? Well, because this is only nuclear. There is also wind and solar now in France, and we are curtailing those as well. Okay, 2 years ago, it was 3 terawatt-hour that was curtailed. Last year, it was 4, and this year, it's rising. And just so you know, the French government just passed a law. There is a target now. In the next 10 years, the goal is to multiply by 3 the installed solar capacity, to multiply by 2 the wind solar capacity, onshore one, and by 10 the offshore windmill capacity. And on top of that, to add another 6 new reactors, nuclear, next generation. At the same time, demand is nowhere to be seen. If you've seen it, let me know. Quite interested. But that's something there. So that's why I'm talking about 150 terawatt-hour. And why it's an issue to have such a, installed capacity which is not being used. It's a massive issue because it's a vicious circle. And why? It's because you have your production asset which is being underused. And in this industry, we are talking about fixed costs. We are talking about CapEx. OpEx it's not nothing, but nearly. It's all about CapEx, so it's fixed costs. So if you spread your fixed costs, which are there anyway, you have to pay them anyway, they are fixed. There's an S missing, sorry. Well, if you spread them over like not as much consumer as you could, it means that you have a pressure on price. You're not incentivizing people to go through electrification if electricity price doesn't go down. The only way to give them an incentive to go through electrification is that if you have a shock in the fossil world. So great. Maybe it would be better to get ready before we hit a wall. So basically, we need flexible demand to break the loop there. We are in a loop. Brilliant, great. So now we've said that. Cheers, bye-bye. Now, what do we do about it? So what does INB, the organization I'm a managing director of, what does INB do about that? Well, yeah, obviously we speak about it. So it's been 18 months that we've been talking to policymakers, energy specialists, political people about it. Success? Both. And then something happened. April 2025, a company called Mara, American Bitcoin miner, basically they saw the opportunity in France. And they saw the opportunity in France. They saw the same thing I was showing there. They were like, no, there's something there. So they set up a company in France called Mara France. And quietly, in the middle of summer, beginning of August, when most of the French people are not looking at anything, they announced very quietly that they were going to buy one of EDF subsidiary. So EDF, it's Électricité de France. It's the company producing electricity mostly in France. It's the one managing the nuclear reactors and so on. And so Mara, yes, was saying that they were buying this subsidiary. And there was like a clause in the contract that was publicly available on the SEC website. But the French were not really looking at it at the time. And this clause was saying, like you just had to read the contract and dig through, was saying that basically Mara will be the only partner available for EDF to do HPC. Or HPC meaning high performance computing. Meaning basically everything from AI to cloud data centers and to Bitcoin mining. They made that move. They were buying these companies, this subsidiary company that was losing money every year, and they said, we are putting 30 million on the table for that company, and we are going to invest 150 million. So when we read the contract and when we went to all the political parties in France, and we told them that there was a rat, yeah, they basically understood it very quickly. They very quickly understood that, yeah, there was something to look at, and started from that point, starting a political battle that lasted 6 months. So Mara was hoping to buy the company quietly in August, and by the end of February 2026, this year, actually the sale went through, but with one thing less. There was no non-compete clause anymore. The French government removed that. And in between, every political party in France, like, they listened to what it was going on. They listened to what France could do with its overcapacity. And from the far right to the far left, apart from one party, the Green Party hasn't said anything, the only one. All the others, they were saying, we have overcapacity, we should do Bitcoin mining, actually, and not let the Americans do it. Yeah, well, indeed. Cheers. So the market is open. The market is open in France. There is the electricity. So, does it work? Sorry, let's go back. So why isn't there any Bitcoin mining yet in France right now? It's not a problem of energy, it's there. It's not a problem of technology. The flexible demand tool, Bitcoin mining, is there. We have a little problem of regulatory category. Very briefly, what does that mean is that the system in France is treating the same way, pretty much the same way at the moment, a flexible demand as a firm demand. Very quickly, what I mean by that is that when prices are low on the spot market, or intraday, doesn't matter. When prices are low, you still have to pay your tax. You still have to pay the grid. And the problem is that those prices are not very flexible at all. So that's an issue, because like those things, basically, they mask the price signal. If the price signal was able to reach consumer, industrial, miners, like we would have Bitcoin mining already in France at the moment. So this is what we are working on now, today. Thanks to the relationship we developed with like all those political parties during those 6 months, we are basically just writing policy papers about this concept that we called additional flexible load. We are called Institut National de Bitcoin, but in the concept, we are technologically neutral. Like any additional demand is needed, as long as it's able to be flexible and to respond to the TSO signal and to stop when the system needs it. So this is what we are pushing now. And just to make the system recognize that a flexible consumer is not only a consumer, it's also a provider. It provides a service that the system needs. You cannot treat it the same way. We don't ask for subsidy. We just ask for, like, stop misclassifying this consumer provider class. This is it. So that's what we're working on today. And we are also preparing something else, because I think we need like academic foundation, scientific process, to be like bulletproof. So INBI, and thanks to the support of EBA, the European Bitcoin Energy Association, we are working today with all the data we have on having a paper, and the target is to have it published in a peer-reviewed journal by the end of the year, with Margot Paez, actually, a freshly doctor from the Georgia Institute in the US, which is one of the few specialists on that subject. And I don't have a PhD, she does, and I've noticed a few times that as soon as you say, I have a PhD, people take you more seriously. So that's why we are going through that, and yes, through this process. And what the paper is going to show, very simply, is going to show, okay, what is today the actual modulation. So I didn't go into the detail of that, but the modulation is like when the nuclear reactor like go up and down. And there is a part of that that could be used by, which is explained by a lack of demand specifically, because there are other reasons as well for explaining modulation. If you want more details about that, read the paper. Otherwise, I'm going to lose half of the people here. Going to find that very boring. But very briefly, like the graph I was showing earlier was an oversimplification. What we are looking at is this little red bit, which is called the modulation for lack of demand. When we can move it, we are able to move up the availability factor. But this little red thing was, 3 terawatt-hour like every year, and it's now like exploding. We are just at the right moment. It's exploding from 12 terawatt-hour to 15 terawatt-hour today, more or less. And the expectation is for this to explode. So the capacity is there. So this is what we're moving on. I'm telling you that we will see Bitcoin mining very soon at an industrial scale in Europe. And that will be a good thing, because we cannot let only one country take everything on a ledger which is the best monetary ledger in the world. So just to finish with like a couple of quotes, which I really like, from Ursula von der Leyen. First one was in March 2026, this year. What did she say? I believe it was a strategic mistake for Europe to turn its back on a reliable, affordable source of low emissions power. What was she talking about? Nuclear, indeed. Yes. So things are moving. In Japan, things are changing as well. Germany, it's a bit too late, but people are changing as well. Belgium also. France is not too late. We have 57 reactor nuclear that can produce a third more. Second quote from the same person, Ursula von der Leyen, April 2026, she said, "The least expensive energy is the energy that is not used." And I'm taking a bet with you today, is that soon, very soon, we will have someone, Ursula von der Leyen or someone equivalent saying, it was a strategic mistake to assume that the least expensive energy is always the energy that is not used. Because when electricity is already available, okay, when electricity has a marginal cost of production, like very low economically and low carbon as well, when this electricity is there, could be produced and has no economic outlet, well, actually, it's a mistake to not consume it. So that's the next step we are going to see soon, because I think the economic pain we are going to go through, I hope not, but it looks like it, will make it, reason will prevail. We're going to go back to that. So I just want to finish on, like, you might have noticed I'm quite an optimistic guy, but I try to back it up with data, and I'm sure we're going to do something in Europe, something big. So what I'm saying is that if you're miners, and you want something to happen big, you don't want to have to go to the US or whatever, join EBA, join the European Bitcoin Energy Association, because we can do great stuff together. If you're a foundation, a company, an individual that like the work of INB, support INB. You cannot be a member because we are like set up as a think tank and we want to be independent. But more importantly, also, if you're an operators, a financiers, an infrastructure builders, stay close. Oh, that's my phone. Because I did put my timer for 25 minutes, and so I'm on it. Oh, that's well done. So that was the end of it, basically. I think we have like a need in Europe to build this flexible demand, because we need it. And the miners, like, they are the best flexible demand there is. So there is a marriage in heaven here. Let's make it happen, basically.